Right. So in the last week's session, we have discussed about importance of identity access management, especially now and then we are implementing different security uh, infrastructures or security elements in when we are developing solutions or when we are managing the organizations, all that. Even high-level understanding over the cyber security that we discussed in the last session. Today, I'm going to discuss about an identity access management, an example from the AWS point of view. Because as in when we know, when we are implementing security solutions for any organization, when we are developing solutions, now and then we are uh, following some cloud services, either it can be AWS or Azure, or it can be IBM, Google Cloud, all that. In that regard, so when we trying to understand about identity access management from AWS point of view, which majorly provides the necessary infrastructure to control any authentications and authorizations for any kind of AWS accounts that we are using. Uh, in this regard, so when we are implementing, for example, any user wants to use any kind of application, uses for any kind of sign-in credentials to authenticate with any kind of AWS accounts of their own, right? So which IAM majorly matches the sign-in credentials to the principal and whatever the kind of AWS accounts that authenticates permissions to access AWS, etc. At the same time, even identity access management will also make the kind of request, right? So to grant the principal access to the resources. At the same time, if there is any uh, faults that we have identified, means if there is any kind of mismatch, in spite of fault, I can say mismatch of credentials and all that. So you deny the access in responses to the authorization request, all that. As an example, I'll give you. For example, when we are signing first time in the console, and the kind of console home pages that you aren't accessing as specific services when you select any kind of services. Generally, we send an authorization request to the IAM for that service. So what IAM do? IAM verifies that the identity is on the list of the authorization users, which majorly determines what policy controls that levels of access is granted. At the same time, it also evaluates other policies, right? So which might be affected, like the kind of principles within the AWS account or from any other AWS accounts, which can trust, make authorization request, etc. So in this regard, so there are different components we need to understand from the IAM point of view, especially when we are implementing any kind of components for a request that we are managing, right? So there are different components that we use here. So one is about mm, actions or operations. That is one thing that we use. And second about the kind of resources, uh, followed by this the kind of principle that we maintain, followed by this whatever the environment uh, data, environment data that we have. At the same time, resource data. Right? So these are the different things that we have. Right. So resource data. Right. So these are the different components that we use. For example, when we are talking about actions and operations and all, majorly the kind of principle wants to perform, such as any kind of actions in AWS Management Console or any operations in AWS CLIs or any AWS ePay, all that. When it comes to the resources, which are objects upon which the principal request to perform an action or operations will maintain. When it comes to the principals, it can be a personal or application, which is used as an entity to send the request, as well as information about the kind of principal that includes the permission policies, all that. When it comes to the environment data is concerned, which information about any kind of IP addresses or any kind of user agents or any kind of SSL that enables status of the timestamps, all these things are part of environment data. Next one about resource data, either it can be data relating to the resource request, such as any DynamoDB table names or any kind of tags on Amazon EC2 instances. Everything will be part of it. So these are the different components that we use for any kind of request when a principal try to use any AWS management consoles, all that. These ADS, AWS APIs or CLIs, whatever the principal that send the request to the AWS, requesting the following information. Okay. This is all about an understanding overall about AWS. As an example, I have taken for identity access management is concerned. Next, we need to know about how this authenticated, right? So authentication authorization. We are using different authentication authorization procedures, policies, all that. So that I'm going to discuss in the next section.